1980s horror film genre reminds us that even in the face of fear and darkness, we have the power to create art that leaves a lasting impact on the world. The 1980s were a decade defined by excess in fashion, music, and even in horror films. This decade saw a surge in the popularity of horror movies, with many of them becoming cult classics that are still celebrated today. From the slasher flicks like Friday the 13th and Halloween to supernatural thrillers like Poltergeist and The Shining. The 1980s was a time when the horror genre saw a tremendous transformation. It was a decade that not only produced some of the most iconic horror movies of all time, but also set the foundation for the genre's future. In this retrospective essay, we will take a closer look at the 1980s horror films, analyzing the themes, motifs, and stylistic choices that defined this decade of horror. Through this analysis, we will gain a better understanding of the cultural and societal context in which films were made and explore why they continue to captivate audiences even today. The Thing is a science fiction horror movie directed by John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell, Keith David, and Wilford Brimley. The film is a remake of the 1951 movie The Thing from Another World, but is based more closely on the novella Who Goes There by John Campbell. The film is set in Antarctica, where a group of researchers discover an alien craft buried in the ice. After thawing out a frozen organism, the creature attacks and incorporates the researchers one by one, creating an atmosphere of paranoia and distrust within the group. One of the most striking features of The Thing is the practical effects. Created by special effects artist Rob Bottin, the creature, which can assume the shape of any living being it consumes, is a grotesque and disturbing sight. The use of practical effects, such as animatronics, prosthetics, and puppetry, adds to the film's realism and horror. The film's soundtrack, composed by Ennio Morricone, is also notable. Unlike most horror movies, the score does not rely on jump scares or loud noises to create tension. Instead, Morricone's haunting and ominous music serves as a subtle and effective way to build suspense throughout the film. One of the most significant themes in The Thing is the concept of trust and suspicion. As the creature assimilates the researchers, they become increasingly paranoid and distrustful of one another. This theme is explored in depth through the film's characters, who struggle to identify the real threat among them. Another central theme is the idea of identity and what makes us human. As the creature assimilates the researchers, it becomes more and more difficult to distinguish between human and alien. This raises questions about what it means to be human and how much our identity is tied to our physical form. Overall, The Thing is a masterclass in horror and suspense, with its blend of practical effects, haunting score, and thought-provoking themes. It is a film that continues to captivate audiences today, over 40 years after its release, and is considered a classic of the genre. Nightmare on Elm Street is a horror film directed by Wes Craven and starring Robert Englund, Heather Langenkamp, and Johnny Depp. The movie tells the story of a group of teenagers who are haunted by a serial killer named Freddy Krueger, who attacks them in their dreams. The film's most notable feature is the character of Freddy Krueger, who has become an iconic figure in the horror genre. Englund's performance as Krueger is chilling and unforgettable, and the character's burned face, razor-sharp glove, and dark humor have become synonymous with the franchise. The film's special effects, particularly the practical effects used to create Krueger's gruesome deaths, are also a standout feature. The use of practical effects adds to the film's realism and helps to create a sense of horror that is both visceral and unsettling. Another notable feature of the film is its use of dream sequences, which are both visually stunning and creatively disturbing. These sequences are a reflection of the subconscious fears and anxieties of the characters, and they serve to blur the lines between reality and nightmare, creating an atmosphere of dread and confusion. One of the most significant themes in A Nightmare on Elm Street is the idea of trauma and its lasting effects. The film's characters are all survivors of Krueger's attacks, and their experiences have left them traumatized and struggling to cope with the psychological scars that have been inflicted upon them. Another central theme is the idea of teenage rebellion and the struggle for independence. The film's characters are all teenagers who are grappling with their own identities and struggling to assert their independence from their parents and authority figures. Overall, A Nightmare on Elm Street is a groundbreaking horror film that has had a significant impact on the genre. Its use of practical effects, dream sequences, and complex themes set the standard for future horror films and have helped to cement its place as a classic of the genre. The character of Freddy Krueger, in particular, has become an icon of horror and continues to terrify audiences to this day. Evil Dead is a horror film directed by Sam Raimi and starring Bruce Campbell. The movie tells the story of 5 college students who travel to a remote cabin in the woods and unwittingly unleash an evil force that possesses and terrorizes them. The film is notable for its inventive use of camera work, special effects, and sound design. Raimi employs a range of techniques, including shaky camera movements, jump cuts, and extreme close-ups to create a sense of chaos and disorientation that intensifies the horror. The practical effects used to depict the possession and transformation of the characters are also noteworthy, and the use of stop-motion animation to bring the demonic creatures to life adds to the film's otherworldly atmosphere. One of the most significant themes in The Evil Dead is the idea of isolation and confinement. The characters are trapped in the cabin and cut off from the outside world, and this sense of claustrophobia adds to the tension and horror of the film. The remote location also serves to isolate the characters from any possible help, leaving them alone to face the evil force that has possessed them. Another notable aspect of the film is its blend of horror and humor. While the film is undeniably terrifying, it also contains moments of dark humor and campy fun that have become hallmarks of the franchise. Campbell's performance as Ash, the film's protagonist, is a particular standout, and his character's transformation from hapless victim to reluctant hero is a testament to his acting abilities. In addition to its technical and thematic achievements, The Evil Dead is also notable for its impact on the horror genre. The film's low-budget origins and independent production style have inspired countless filmmakers, and its influence can be seen in countless horror films that have followed in its wake. Overall, The Evil Dead is a classic horror film that has earned its place in the canon of the genre. Its innovative camera work, practical effects, and memorable characters have made it a beloved cult classic, and its impact on the horror genre continues to be felt to this day. Aliens is a science fiction horror film directed by James Cameron and is a sequel to Ridley Scott's 1979 film Alien. The film picks up where the first one left off, with Ripley, a Sigourney Weaver, awakening from stasis 57 years after the events of the first film. She is recruited to accompany a group of Marines on a mission to investigate a colony on LV-426, where they encounter the deadly alien species. The film is notable for its mix of genres, blending elements of science fiction, action, and horror to create a thrilling and intense cinematic experience. Cameron's direction is masterful, creating a sense of tension and urgency throughout the film. The use of lighting, music, and sound design are also notable, adding to the suspense and horror of the film. One of the most significant themes of Aliens is the idea of motherhood and female strength. Ripley is portrayed as a fierce and capable warrior, taking charge of the mission and fighting to protect the lives of the colonists and her fellow Marines. The maternal instincts she displays towards the young girl Newt she rescues from the colony add depth to her character and highlight the theme of motherhood. Another notable aspect of the film is the way in which it expands upon the mythology of the alien species. The film introduces the concept of the alien queen, a larger and more powerful version of the alien, and explores the alien life cycle in greater detail. This expansion of the alien mythology adds to the world building of the film and provides a deeper understanding of the alien species. The film's action sequences are also noteworthy, with some of the most memorable moments coming from the intense battles between the Marines and the aliens. The use of practical effects and puppetry to bring the aliens to life is impressive and adds to the realism of the film. Overall, Aliens is a landmark film in the science fiction and horror genres. Its mix of genres, memorable characters, and thrilling action sequences have made it a beloved classic that continues to inspire and influence filmmakers today. The film's exploration of themes such as motherhood and female strength, as well as its expansion of the alien mythology, add depth and complexity to the story and make it a film that is both entertaining and thought-provoking. The Lost Boys is a horror comedy film directed by Joel Schumacher and is a beloved classic of the 1980s. The film follows brothers Michael and Sam, played by Jason Patric and Corey Haim, as they move to a coastal town in California with their mother. The boys soon discover that the town is infested with vampires and must team up with a group of vampire hunters. The Frog Brothers, played by Corey Feldman and Jamison Newlander, to defeat the evil creatures. The film is notable for its blend of horror and comedy, with moments of both genres seamlessly interwoven throughout the story. The comedic moments add levity to the dark and sometimes gruesome scenes, creating a unique tone that sets the film apart from other vampire movies. The film's casting is also notable, with a young and talented cast bringing their characters to life with energy and charisma. Patrick and Haim have great chemistry as brothers, and their performances add emotional depth to the story. Feldman and Newlander steal the show as the quirky and eccentric Frog Brothers, providing some of the film's most memorable comedic moments. The film's soundtrack is also noteworthy, featuring a mix of 1980s pop and rock songs that add to the film's nostalgic feel. The use of music during key scenes, such as the iconic beach concert sequence, adds to the film's charm and helps to establish its place in 1980s pop culture scene. While The Lost Boys is a comedic take on the vampire genre, it also touches on deeper themes such as family, identity, and belonging. Michael's transformation into a vampire and his struggle to resist the urge to feed on human blood can be seen as a metaphor for the challenges of adolescence and growing up. The Lost Boys is a hilarious and entertaining film that has become a cult classic of the 1980s. Its unique blend of horror and comedy, talented cast, and iconic soundtrack have made it a beloved favorite among audiences. Despite its comedic tone, the film also touches on deeper themes that make it a thoughtful and thought-provoking viewing experience. Friday the 13th is a classic horror film directed by Sean Cunningham that helped to establish the slasher film genre of the 1980s. The film follows a group of camp counselors who are stalked and murdered by an unknown assailant at a summer camp. One of the key elements of the film that has contributed to its lasting popularity is its iconic villain, Jason Voorhees. Although Jason himself does not make an appearance until the sequels, his mother, Mrs. Voorhees, serves as the killer in the first film. The motivations for the killings are rooted in a tragic backstory involving the death of her son, which adds depth to the character and makes her more than just a mindless killer. Another important aspect of the film is its use of suspense and tension. The film setting a remote summer camp in the woods creates a sense of isolation and vulnerability for the characters, making them easy targets for the killer. The film also utilizes a variety of suspenseful techniques, such as jump scares and false leads, to keep the audience on the edge of their seats. Despite its reputation as a horror film, Friday the 13th also contains a surprising amount of humor. The film's characters, particularly the camp counselors, are portrayed as stereotypical teenagers with their own quirks and personalities. Their interactions with each other provide some comedic relief for the tension of the horror elements. The film's low budget is also a contributing factor to its charm. The use of practical effects, such as prosthetics and makeup, creates a sense of realism that is often lacking in modern horror films that rely heavily on computer graphics. The practical effects used to depict the murders are particularly effective, creating some truly gruesome and shocking moments that have become iconic in the horror genre. Friday the 13th is a classic horror film that has stood the test of time. Its blend of suspense, horror, and humor make it an entertaining viewing experience, while its iconic villain and practical effects make it a significant contribution to the horror genre. Despite its flaws, the film remains a beloved favorite among horror fans and has spawned numerous sequels and remakes over the years. The Shining is a psychological horror film directed by Stanley Kubrick and based on the novel by Stephen King. The film follows Jack Torrance, a writer who takes a job as the caretaker of the isolated Overlook Hotel during the winter season with his wife Wendy and young son Danny in tow. One of the key themes of The Shining is isolation, both physical and psychological. The Overlook Hotel is located in a remote area, cut off from the rest of civilization, and as the winter snows fall, the characters become increasingly cut off from the outside world. Jack's descent into madness is also a product of his psychological isolation, as he becomes increasingly obsessed with his writing and delusional about the supernatural forces at work in the hotel. Another important theme of the film is the power of suggestion and imagination. The supernatural events in the hotel are never fully explained, leaving the audience to interpret them in their own way. This ambiguity allows the film to play on the fears and anxieties of the audience as they are forced to fill in the gaps in their own minds. This theme is exemplified by the iconic Here's Johnny scene, in which Jack uses an axe to break through the bathroom door, an image that has become synonymous with the film. The performances in The Shining are also noteworthy. Nicholson's portrayal of Jack Torrance is a masterclass in psychological horror as he slowly descends into madness, becoming more and more unhinged as the film progresses. Duvall's portrayal of Wendy is also effective as she becomes increasingly terrified of her husband and the strange events happening in the hotel. The film's visual style is also a significant factor in its success. Kubrick's use of symmetrical framing, long takes, and eerie music create an unsettling atmosphere that permeates the entire film. The Overlook Hotel itself is a character in its own right, with its maze-like corridors and hauntingly beautiful interiors providing a visually striking backdrop for the events of the film. The Shining is a masterpiece of psychological horror that continues to captivate audiences decades after its release. Its themes of isolation, imagination, and the supernatural are all expertly woven together, creating a complex and unsettling viewing experience. The film's performances, visual style, and iconic moments have made it a classic of the horror genre and a testament to the power of cinema to terrify and captivate its audience. Poltergeist is a horror film directed by Tobe Hooper and produced by Steven Spielberg. The film follows the Freeling family who are haunted by malevolent ghosts that begin to terrorize their suburban home. As the haunting intensifies, the family seeks the help of a team of paranormal investigators to uncover the truth behind the supernatural phenomena. One of the key themes of Poltergeist is the fear of the unknown. The film explores the idea that there are forces in the world that are beyond our understanding and control, and that the most terrifying things are often those that we cannot see. The film's use of special effects and practical makeup create a sense of dread and tension as the audience is left to imagine what kind of entity would be responsible for the haunting. Another important theme in the film is the concept of the American dream. The Freeling family lives in a seemingly perfect suburban neighborhood with a white picket fence, 2 cars, and all the material possessions they could want. However, the haunting reveals that there are dark forces at work beneath the surface of this idyllic lifestyle, and that even the most seemingly perfect existence can be destroyed by unseen forces. Performances in Poltergeist are also noteworthy. JoBeth Williams gives a strong performance as Diane Freeling, the mother of the family, who is determined to protect her children from the malevolent spirits that have invaded their home. Craig Nelson also delivers a solid performance as her husband Steve, who is forced to confront his own fears and insecurities in order to save his family. The film's visual style is also a significant factor in its success. The use of lighting, camera angles, and sound create a sense of unease and tension as the audience is drawn into the Freeling family's terrifying ordeal. The special effects, particularly the scenes involving the ghostly apparitions, are also well executed and remain impressive even by modern standards. Poltergeist is a classic of the horror genre, exploring themes of the unknown, the American dream, and the power of family. The film's effective use of special effects, strong performances, and atmospheric visual style have cemented its status as a beloved and enduring horror film. Hellraiser is a horror film directed by Clive Barker based on his novella, The Hell-Bound Heart. The film follows the story of a man named Frank Cotton who obtains a mysterious puzzle box that opens a gateway to a realm of sadomasochistic demons called the Cenobites. When Frank is torn apart by the Cenobites, his brother and his wife become involved in a dangerous game of cat and mouse with the demonic beings. One of the key themes of Hellraiser is the exploration of desire and pleasure. The film presents a dark and twisted vision of sexuality where pleasure and pain are intertwined and the boundaries between pleasure and horror are blurred. The Cenobites, led by the iconic Pinhead, represent a manifestation of humanity's darkest desires and their pursuit of extreme sensations. The film's visual style is another noteworthy aspect. The use of practical effects and makeup creates a visceral and unsettling atmosphere with scenes of graphic violence and gore that are not for the faint of heart. The film's iconic imagery, such as the puzzle box and the Cenobites, has become a staple of the horror genre and has influenced countless films and media in the decades since its release. In addition to its exploration of desire and pleasure, Hellraiser also touches on the themes of family, morality, and redemption. The relationship between the brothers, Frank and Larry, is fraught with tension and betrayal, with Larry struggling to reconcile his love for his brother with his revulsion at his actions. Meanwhile, the character of Kirsty, Larry's daughter, is a sympathetic figure who becomes embroiled in the supernatural events and ultimately becomes a heroine in her own right. The film's impact on the horror genre cannot be overstated. Its unique blend of sexuality, violence, and horror has influenced countless films and media, and its characters and imagery have become cultural touchstones. While the film has been criticized for its sometimes uneven pacing and confusing mythology, its strengths far outweigh its weaknesses, making Hellraiser a classic of the horror genre that is still chilling and provocative more than 3 decades after its release. An American Werewolf in London is a horror comedy directed by John Landis, which tells the story of 2 American backpackers who are attacked by a werewolf while hiking through the moors of England. One of them dies in the attack, while the other, David, survives but is cursed with lycanthropy. As he struggles to come to terms with his new condition, he is haunted by visions of his deceased friend, who warns him of the danger he poses to those around him. One of the key strengths of the film is its use of practical effects, which are some of the most impressive and memorable in horror cinema. The transformation scene, in which David transforms from human to werewolf, is a masterclass in practical effects and makeup and remains a landmark achievement in the genre. The film's mix of humor and horror is also a standout feature, with Landis successfully blending the 2 genres to create a film that is both terrifying and entertaining. Another noteworthy aspect of An American Werewolf in London is its exploration of the theme of identity. David's transformation into a werewolf forces him to confront his own identity and the changes that he undergoes. He's no longer fully human, but not quite a monster either. This creates a sense of alienation and isolation that is reflected in his relationships with those around him, particularly his love interest Alex. The film also explores the theme of history and tradition, particularly in the character of Dr. Hirsch, who becomes involved in the investigation into the werewolf attacks. He represents the old guard who seek to maintain the status quo and uphold traditional values. This clashes with the more progressive attitudes of David and Alex, who represent a new generation. In conclusion, An American Werewolf in London is a classic of the horror comedy genre that has stood the test of time. Its blend of humor and horror, impressive practical effects, and exploration of themes such as identity and tradition make it a film that is both entertaining and thought-provoking. Landis' direction and the performances of the cast, particularly David Norton and Griffin Dunne, are also standout features. More than 40 years after its release, An American Werewolf in London remains a film that is beloved by horror fans and casual moviegoers alike. Fright Night is a horror comedy directed by Tom Holland, which follows teenager Charlie Brewster as he discovers that his next-door neighbor, Jerry Dandridge, is a vampire. With the help of horror TV host Peter Vincent, Charlie sets out to stop Jerry before he can harm anyone else. One of the key strengths of the film is its use of humor and horror. Holland strikes a careful balance between the two, creating a film that is both scary and funny. The film's special effects, particularly those used for Jerry's transformation scenes, are also impressive and memorable. The film also explores the theme of adolescent sexuality, particularly in the relationship between Charlie and his girlfriend Amy. Charlie's obsession with Jerry represents a fear of the unknown and a fear of sexual awakening. The film also subverts traditional gender roles by having Amy take an active role in fighting against Jerry rather than being a passive victim. Another notable aspect of Fright Night is its use of self-referential humor. The character of Peter Vincent, played by Roddy McDowall, is a nod to Vincent Price and other horror hosts of the time. This adds an extra layer of meta-commentary to the film and allows it to function as both a horror film and a commentary on the genre as a whole. The film's setting in suburban America also serves to heighten its horror elements. Holland uses the familiar setting of a suburban neighborhood to create a sense of unease and tension. The fact that the threat is coming from within the neighborhood rather than from outside adds to the film's sense of claustrophobia. In conclusion, Fright Night is a classic of the horror comedy genre that successfully balances scares and laughs. Its exploration of themes such as adolescent sexuality and its use of self-referential humor make it a film that is both entertaining and thought-provoking. Holland's direction and the performances of the cast, particularly McDowall and Chris Sarandon as Jerry Dandridge, are also standout features. More than 35 years after its release, Fright Night remains a film that is beloved by horror fans and casual moviegoers alike. Sematary is a horror film based on the novel by Stephen King, directed by Mary Lambert. The film follows the Creed family as they move to a new home in rural Maine and discover a mysterious burial ground with the power to bring the dead back to life. One of the key themes of the film is the fear of death and the desire to cheat it. The film explores the consequences of tampering with the natural order of life and death, and the horrors that can result from trying to play God. The character of Louis Creed, played by Del Midkiff, is driven to desperation by the death of his son Gage, and his willingness to do anything to bring him back has disastrous consequences. Another significant theme is the idea of the uncanny and the blurring of boundaries between life and death. The resurrected characters in the film are not quite the same as they were before, and their return from the dead is often marked by disturbing behavior and physical changes. The film also makes use of symbolism and foreshadowing, such as the repeated appearances of a ghostly figure in a cat cemetery, to create a sense of dread and unease. The film's setting in rural Maine is also significant, as it allows for the exploration of the isolation and loneliness that can come with living in a small town. Freed families cut off from the rest of society, and their isolation makes them vulnerable to the supernatural forces at work in the film. The performances of the cast are also noteworthy, particularly those of Fred Gwynne as the neighbour Judd Crandall and Mike Hughes as Gage Creed. Gwynne's folksy charm and Hughes' eerie portrayal of the raise your rected Gage both contribute to the film's overall sense of unease. Pet Sematary is a chilling and thought-provoking horror film that explores complex themes of death, grief, and the supernatural. Lambert's direction and the strong performances of the cast make it a standout entry in the Stephen King adaptation canon. More than 30 years after its release, Pet Sematary remains a film that continues to haunt and unsettle audiences. Evil Dead 2 is a horror comedy film directed by Sam Raimi and serves as both a sequel and a remake of the original Evil Dead. The film follows the character of Ash Williams, played by Bruce Campbell, as he returns to the cabin in the woods and battles a demonic force that has possessed his girlfriend and threatens to take over the world. One of the key strengths of the film is its innovative use of camera techniques and special effects. Raimi employs a range of techniques, such as tracking shots, point-of-view shots, and rapid zooms to create a sense of chaos and disorientation that contributes to the film's overall sense of dread and horror. The film also makes use of practical effects, such as puppetry and stop-motion animation, to create the grotesque and macabre imagery that defines the Evil Dead universe. The film's comedic elements are also noteworthy, as they serve to undercut the horror and provide moments of relief and levity. Campbell's performance as Ash is particularly noteworthy, as he embodies both the hero and the fool, and his physical comedy and one-liners add to the film's entertainment value. The film's self-awareness and willingness to poke fun at itself and the horror genre as a whole also contribute to its enduring popularity. Another notable aspect of the film is its treatment of gender roles and stereotypes. The film features a strong female character in the form of Annie Knowlby, played by Sarah Berry, who is a capable and intelligent heroine in her own right. The film also subverts traditional gender roles, as Ash is depicted as more of a damsel in distress than a traditional action hero, and his eventual triumph is as much due to luck. The film's exploration of the demonic and the supernatural also allows for a deeper examination of the human psyche and the nature of evil. The film suggests that evil is not just an external force, but also something that resides within us all, and that we must confront our own demons if we are to overcome the darkness. Evil Dead 2 is a masterful blend of horror and comedy, and a testament to Raimi's skill as a filmmaker. The film's innovative camera techniques, special effects, and strong performances make it a standout entry in the horror genre, and its enduring popularity is a testament to its enduring appeal. Despite our rule of only including films from the 1980s in this essay, we have decided to make an exception for this particular film due to its significant impact and legacy. Halloween is a seminal horror film directed by John Carpenter and is widely regarded as one of the most important and influential horror films of all time. The film follows the character of Michael Myers, a young boy who murders his sister and is subsequently institutionalized for 15 years. Upon his escape, Myers returns to his hometown of Haddonfield, Illinois, and begins a killing spree that terrorizes the town and its inhabitants. One of the key strengths of the film is its minimalist approach to horror. Carpenter uses a variety of techniques, such as low-angle shots, slow tracking shots, and a haunting score to create a sense of tension and dread that permeates the entire film. The film's use of darkness and shadows also adds to its atmosphere, and Carpenter's use of practical effects, such as simple yet effective makeup and prosthetics, adds to the film's visceral impact. The film's central villain, Michael Myers, is also a noteworthy aspect of the film. Myers is depicted as a mysterious and almost supernatural force, and his motivations are never fully explained. This lack of explanation adds to the film's sense of dread and uncertainty, and contributes to the enduring popularity of the character. The film's treatment of gender roles and sexuality is also noteworthy. The film features a strong female character in the form of Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who serves as both the final girl and the archetypal virgin character. The film's depiction of sexuality is more ambiguous, as the film suggests that sexual activity is linked to vulnerability and danger, and that the characters who engage in sexual behavior are more likely to be killed by Myers. Another important aspect of the film is its examination of the American suburban landscape. The film is set in a quintessential American suburb, and its depiction of the seemingly idyllic community as a site of violence and terror is a commentary on the dark underbelly of American culture. The film's critique of the normal and the mundane also contributes to its lasting impact and its ability to unsettle audiences. Halloween is a masterful example of minimalist horror filmmaking and a testament to Carpenter's skill as a director. The film's use of atmosphere, tension, and practical effects creates a sense of terror that has influenced countless horror films in the decades since its release. The film's examination of gender roles, sexuality, and American culture also make it a noteworthy entry in the horror genre, and a film that continues to resonate with audiences to this day. Predator, released in 1987, is a science fiction action movie with horror elements that has cemented its place in popular culture through its memorable characters, thrilling action, and unique premise. The film was directed by John McTiernan, who went on to direct other classic action films like Die Hard and The Hunt for Red October. Predator follows a team of commandos led by Dutch, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was sent on a mission to rescue hostages from guerrilla fighters in a Central American jungle. However, they soon find themselves hunted by a technologically advanced alien creature that can turn invisible. As the Predator picks off each member of the team one by one, Dutch and the survivors must use their skills and wits to fight back against the deadly hunter. One of the strengths of Predator is its cast of characters, each of whom was given distinct personalities and backstories. Schwarzenegger's Dutch is a strong and charismatic leader, while Jesse Venture's Blaine is a memorable tough guy who delivers the famous line, "I ain't got time to bleed." The banter and camaraderie between the characters make the film entertaining even before the action kicks in. The Predator itself is also an iconic figure in film history, with its advanced technology and fearsome appearance. The creator's invisibility and use of thermal imaging to track its prey make it a formidable opponent, and its design has inspired numerous sequels, spin-offs, and homages over the years. However, Predator is more than just an action-packed thrill ride. The film explores themes of masculinity, honor, and survival as Dutch and his team are forced to confront their own limitations and flaws in the face of the Predator's lethal abilities, sending the movie into more of a horror film. The jungle setting and the use of guerrilla warfare tactics add to the film's gritty and intense atmosphere. Predator is a classic 1980s film that has stood the test of time. Its memorable characters, thrilling action, and unique premise have made it a favorite of action, science fiction, and horror fans, and its influence can be seen in numerous films and television shows that have followed in its footsteps.
I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Child's Play, released in 1988, is a horror movie that introduced one of the most iconic horror movie villains of all time, Chucky. Directed by Tom Holland and written by Don Mancini, Child's Play tells the story of a single mother named Karen who buys a seemingly innocent doll named Chucky for her young son, Andy. However, it quickly becomes clear that the doll is possessed by the soul of a serial killer. One of the most effective aspects of Child's Play is the way it plays with audience expectations. At the beginning of the film, Chucky appears to be just an innocent doll, but as the film progresses, the true nature of the doll is revealed, resulting in a growing sense of tension and terror. The film also manages to blend horror and humor, with the foul-mouthed Chucky providing plenty of laughs even as he terrorizes his victims.
You know, I thought something like this might happen. That's why I prepared for it.
What are you talking about?
Your own personal mojo, Doc.
Give me that.
Sure! How do you want it? Broken leg?
Another notable aspect of Child's Play is the performance of Brad Dourif, who provides the voice of Chucky. Dourif's gravelly voice and sinister delivery bring the character to life and make Chucky a memorable villain.
What's wrong? Gun jam?
The film also features solid performances from Hicks and Vincent, who are able to make their characters sympathetic and able to be related to. Beyond its entertainment value, Child's Play also touches on deeper themes such as the nature of evil and the power of belief. The film raises questions about the responsibility of the creator for the actions of their creation, as well as the role of childhood trauma in shaping adult behavior. These themes give the film more depth and resonance than many other horror movies of the time. Child's Play spawned several sequels, as well as a reboot in 2019, and has become a horror movie classic. Its memorable villain, effective blend of horror and humor, and exploration of deeper themes have made it a fan favorite, and its influence can be seen in numerous horror movies and television shows that have followed in its wake. Friday the 13th Part 2, released in 1981, is the first sequel to the iconic slasher film Friday the 13th. Directed by Steve Miner and written by Ron Kurz, the film picks up 5 years after the events of the original, with a new group of camp counselors being terrorized by the vengeful killer, Jason Voorhees. One of the strengths of Friday the 13th, Part 2, is its use of suspense and tension to create a sense of dread. The film builds up the anticipation of the killer's presence, with glimpses of Jason lurking in the background and eerie sounds adding to the atmosphere of fear. The kills are also more brutal and inventive than in the first film, with creative use of practical effects to make them more gruesome. Another notable aspect of the film is its portrayal of the final girl, Ginny. Unlike the typical horror movie victim, Ginny is resourceful and intelligent, using her knowledge of child psychology to outsmart Jason and save herself. This subversion of gender roles is refreshing and adds depth to the film. the movie also has some weaknesses. The characterization of the supporting characters is thin, with many of them being little more than stock slasher movie victims. The film also relies heavily on tropes of the genre, such as jump scares and false scares, which can feel predictable and overused. Despite these flaws, Friday the 13th Part 2 is an important film in the slasher movie genre, and its impact can be seen in numerous horror movies that followed in its wake. Its use of suspense, inventive kills, and subversion of gender roles make it a notable entry in the series and a fan favorite. Halloween 2, released in 1981, is a direct sequel to the original Halloween film. Directed by Rick Rosenthal and written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, the film picks up right where the first film left off, with Laurie Strode being taken to the hospital and Michael Myers continuing his killing spree. One of the strengths of Halloween 2 is its commitment to continuing the story established in the original film. The film maintains the same tone, atmosphere, and cinematography, effectively immersing the audience in the same world. Additionally, the use of Laurie's hospitalization and Michael's pursuit of her adds an extra layer of tension and claustrophobia. Another notable aspect of the film is the development of Laurie's character. In Halloween, Laurie was portrayed as a shy and vulnerable teenage girl, but in Halloween 2 she is forced to confront her fears and fight back against Michael. This transformation makes her a more compelling and empowering protagonist. However, the movie also has some weaknesses. The film relies heavily on gore and violence, which can feel gratuitous at times. Additionally, the subplot involving Dr. Loomis and his investigation into Michael's past feels somewhat tacked on and unnecessary. Despite these flaws, Halloween 2 is a worthy sequel to the original film and an important entry in the slasher movie genre. Its commitment to continuing the story and developing the characters make it a compelling watch for fans of the series, while its use of tension and claustrophobia help it stand out from other horror movies of its time. Overall, Halloween 2 is a solid addition to the Halloween franchise and a classic of 1980s horror cinema.
Just might be a gremlin in your house.
Gremlins, released in 1984, is a horror comedy film directed by Joe Dante and written by Chris Columbus. The film tells the story of a young man named Billy who receives a mysterious creature called a mogwai as a Christmas gift. However, when the creature is accidentally exposed to water, it spawns a group of mischievous and malevolent creatures known as Gremlins that wreak havoc on Billy's small town. One of the strengths of Gremlins is its ability to balance horror and comedy. The film starts off as a heartwarming Christmas story, but quickly takes a dark turn once the Gremlins are introduced. The creatures are both terrifying and humorous, causing chaos and destruction while also engaging in silly antics. the strength of the film is its use of practical effects. The Gremlins are brought to life through puppetry and animatronics, which gives them a tangible and realistic quality. This approach makes the horror elements of the film more impactful and helps to immerse the audience in the story. Additionally, Gremlins touches on themes of consumerism and the dangers of technology. The film's villain, Mrs. Daigle, embodies the greed and materialism that the film critiques, while the Mogwai's vulnerability to water and bright light serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of tampering with nature. However, the film does have some flaws. The character of Kate feels underdeveloped, and her backstory, which involves a traumatic Christmas experience, feels out of place in the film. Additionally, the film's ending, which involves the Gremlins being dispatched in a rather violent and brutal manner, feels tonally inconsistent with the film's overall comedic tone. Despite these flaws, Gremlins remains a beloved and influential film in the horror comedy genre. Its ability to balance horror and humor, its use of practical effects, and its themes of consumerism and technology make it a timeless classic of 1980s cinema. John Carpenter's The Fog, released in 1980, is a classic horror film that is often overlooked when discussing Carpenter's work. The movie, set in a small coastal town in California, tells the story of a group of residents who are terrorized by a supernatural fog that brings with it the vengeful ghosts of long-dead sailors. One of the most notable aspects of The Fog is its atmosphere. The movie is set in a small, isolated town, and Carpenter does a great job of creating a sense of dread and foreboding. The use of the fog, which rolls in off the ocean and envelopes the town, is particularly effective. The fog is used as a metaphor for the ghosts that haunt the town, and it serves as a visual representation of the supernatural forces at work. Another standout aspect of The Fog is the film's score, which was composed by Carpenter himself. The score is haunting and atmospheric, and it perfectly complements the movie's visuals. The use of synthesizers and electronic music was cutting edge for its time, and it helped to establish Carpenter as one of the most innovative composers in the industry. The acting in The Fog is also noteworthy. Jamie Lee Curtis, who had starred in Carpenter's previous movie, Halloween, Curtis is a strong presence on screen, and she brings a sense of urgency and vulnerability to her performance. The rest of the cast is also solid, with Adrienne Barbeau giving a standout performance as a radio host. Plays the lead role of Stevie Wayne, a local DJ who is one of the few people who realizes the danger that the fog poses. The plot of The Fog is relatively simple, but it is executed well. The movie builds slowly, with tension and suspense being gradually ramped up as the fog begins to roll in. The climax is thrilling, with the heroes of the movie facing off against the ghosts in a tense and exciting finale. Overall, The Fog is a strong entry in Carpenter's filmography and a classic of the horror genre. Its atmosphere, score, and performances are all outstanding, and it remains a chilling and effective movie over 40 years after its initial release. David Cronenberg's The Fly is a masterful work of body horror that explores the horror of physical decay, the fear of death, and the fragility of the human condition. Released in 1986, the film is a remake of the 1958 classic and stars Jeff Goldblum as Seth Brundle, a brilliant scientist who becomes the victim of his own experiment when he accidentally merges himself with that of a common house fly. The film's opening scene sets the tone for the entire movie as we see Brundle experimenting with his telepod technology and revealing his profound loneliness. He meets journalist Veronica Quaife, and they begin a romantic relationship that quickly becomes complicated when Brundle starts to undergo horrific physical changes. What makes The Fly so effective is the way it uses special effects to depict Brundle's physical transformation. As his body begins to break down and merge with that of the fly, we see him gradually losing his humanity and becoming something monstrous. The makeup effects and animatronics used to bring Brundle's transformation to life are incredibly convincing and disturbing, making for some truly unforgettable scenes of body horror. But The Fly is more than just a gory spectacle. It's a meditation on the nature of identity and what it means to be human. As Brundle's transformation progresses, he becomes increasingly detached from his own sense of self, eventually losing all sense of morality and becoming a truly terrifying creature. Goldblum's performance is remarkable, conveying both the horror and tragedy of Brundle's situation with nuance and depth. Overall, The Fly is a brilliant and unsettling film that lingers in the mind long after it's over. Its themes of mortality, identity, and transformation make it a truly profound work of horror that continues to resonate with audiences today. Released in 1985, The Return of the Living Dead is a unique horror film that provides a fresh take on the zombie genre. Directed by Dan O'Bannon, who also wrote the screenplay, the film is a humorous yet gruesome take on the classic zombie apocalypse. The film has become a cult classic due to its clever writing, fantastic special effects, and memorable characters. The film opens with two employees of a medical supply company, Frank and Freddie, who accidentally release a mysterious gas from a barrel that was supposedly used in a government experiment. The gas reanimates the dead, leading to a chaotic and terrifying night for the two men and the rest of the characters they encounter. One of the key elements of the film's success is its blending of horror and comedy.
You can hear me.
Yes.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
Brains only.
Yes.
Why?
The pain.
What about the pain?
The pain of being dead.
Hurts to be dead.
I can feel myself rot.
Eating brains. How does that make you feel?
It makes the pain go away.
The film never takes itself too seriously, and the result is a movie that is both frightening and hilarious. The humor is often dark and morbid, and it serves to enhance the tension and scares. The zombies themselves are also unique in that they are self-aware and intelligent, adding another layer of depth to the horror.
No blood pressure, no pulse.
What do you mean, no blood pressure, no pulse?
Shh, take it easy, take it easy. What do you have? 70.
70 what?
70 degrees.
Well, what's that?
Room temperature.
700, this is dispatch. Do you copy over?
Come in, dispatch. Stand More paramedics.
The special effects in the film are also noteworthy. The zombies are depicted as rotting, decomposing corpses that are both grotesque and terrifying. The practical effects used to create the zombies are fantastic, and the film's use of puppetry and animatronics give the zombies a lifelike quality. Additionally, the makeup and gore effects are expertly executed, creating a visceral and unforgettable experience for the audience. Characters in The Return of the Living Dead are also well developed and memorable. Each character has a distinct personality and backstory, and the audience becomes invested in their fates. This is particularly true for the two leads, Frank and Freddy, who are both flawed yet relatable protagonists. Overall, The Return of the Living Dead is a unique and entertaining horror film that blends humor, gore, and memorable characters. Its blend of horror and comedy has influenced many subsequent horror comedies, and its zombies have become iconic in their own right. The film's success can be attributed to its clever writing, fantastic special effects, and memorable characters, making it a must-watch for fans of the horror genre. Released in 1988 and directed by John Carpenter, They Live is a science fiction horror film that explores themes of consumerism, individualism, and social control. The film stars Roddy Piper as a drifter who discovers a pair of sunglasses that allows him to see the true nature of the world, revealing that aliens have taken over and are manipulating humanity through subliminal messages. At its core, They Live is a commentary on the capitalist system and the ways in which it dehumanizes people, turning them into mindless consumers. The film presents a dystopian future where the elite alien class has gained complete control over the human population, using subliminal messages to keep them docile and obedient. The sunglasses act as a metaphor for the power of knowledge and consciousness, allowing the protagonist to break free from the constraints of the system and see things as they truly are. They Live is also a film about the struggle for individualism in a world that demands conformity. The protagonist is initially a loner, an outcast, but he becomes the only one who can see the truth and take action against the alien threat. The film celebrates the power of the individual to make a difference, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. The film's social commentary is heightened by its use of humor and satire. The iconic bubblegum line is an example of the film's irreverent tone, poking fun at the absurdity of the situation while also conveying the urgency of the situation.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
The film's climactic fight scene, featuring the protagonist and his ally using the sunglasses and improvised weapons to take on the aliens, is both thrilling and comedic, showcasing the film's unique blend of action, horror, and humor. Overall, They Live is a thought-provoking and entertaining film that remains relevant today. Its themes of consumerism, individualism, and social control continue to resonate with audiences, and its use of humor and satire make it a standout in the horror genre. As a film that challenges the status quo and champions the power of the individual, They Live is a timeless classic.
Fresh, vital. The old cynicism is gone. We have faith in our leaders. We're optimistic as to what becomes of it all. It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism. There are no limits.
It figures it would be something like this.
Terminator, directed by James Cameron and released in 1984, is a seminal film in the science fiction genre. The film features Arnold Schwarzenegger in one of his most iconic roles as the titular character, a cyborg assassin sent back in time to kill Sarah Connor, the mother of the future leader of the human resistance against machines. While the film is generally classified as a science fiction action movie, it also possesses many elements of a horror film. First and foremost, the Terminator presents an unstoppable force that relentlessly pursues its prey. The titular character is a terrifying presence, a near-invincible killing machine that is single-minded in its pursuit of Sarah Connor. The Terminator's unrelenting nature is reminiscent of classic horror villains like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, who are similarly impervious to harm and relentlessly pursue their victims. Another horror element in the Terminator is the way it presents the threat of technology. The film was released at the dawn of the computer age, and its vision of a future where machines have taken over is a chilling one. The idea of machines turning against humans is a common theme in science fiction, but the Terminator takes it to a visceral level. The film's portrayal of a bleak, dystopian future ruled by machines is a genuinely frightening one. In addition to its horror elements, the Terminator is also notable for its use of time travel. The idea of a killer coming back from the future to kill someone in the past is a common science fiction trope, but the Terminator explores it in a unique and terrifying way. The film's use of time travel adds an extra layer of complexity to its plot, and the way it weaves together past and present is masterful. Overall, while The Terminator is often thought of as a science fiction action movie, it also possesses many elements of a horror film. Its portrayal of an unstoppable killing machine, its presentation of the threat of technology, and its use of time travel all contribute to its status as a classic horror science fiction film. The impact of 1980s horror films on popular culture is undeniable. These films not only terrified audiences, but also influenced and inspired a generation of filmmakers and artists. The themes and motifs that emerged from this era of horror continue to resonate with audiences today. The 1980s brought a new level of gore and violence to the screen, but also explored deeper themes of societal fears, trauma, and the human psyche. These films continue to be celebrated and studied for their contributions to the horror genre and their enduring cultural relevance. Whether it's the classic slasher films, supernatural horrors, or science fiction thrillers, the 1980s left an indelible mark on the genre and on cinema as a whole.